How many of you like to dance? Maybe some of you, maybe a lot of you. How many of you would like to dance for hours on end? Probably not that many of you, right? But how many of you would like to dance for days on end? None of you. You might dance yourself to death. Literally. Well, believe it or not, this was a strange occurrence that happened in a town called Strasbourg of the Roman Empire back in the year 1518. It is widely known as the Dancing Plague of 1518. I have done an extensive amount of research on this in order to bring you a well-developed speech today. While we know what the Dancing Plague of 1518 is, there is not a definitive cause that we can pinpoint today. First off, let's give you some background knowledge on the town of Strasbourg. In the Public Domain Review, Ned Pennant Rea writes, "On a hastily built stage before the busy horse market of Strasbourg, scores of people danced to pipes, drums, and horns." Now at this time, Europe was going through a major flu-infested season. Also, the Renaissance was in full swing, so people were expressing themselves in creative ways that had never been done before. Also, religious controversy was a major thing at this time. The Protestant Reformation had started challenging the Catholic Church for their authority. Now that you know a little bit about it, let's get into what the Dancing Plague of 1518 really was. In the same article from the Public Domain Review, Ned Pennant Rea writes, "Frau Traffia had started dancing on July 14th, on the narrow cobbled street outside her half-timbered home. As far as we can tell, she had no musical accompaniment, but simply began to dance. While she danced, the numbers began to grow, and more people started to dance spontaneously. These people danced until they passed out and sometimes even died." Now, John Waller writes in his book, The Dancing Plague, the strange true story of an extraordinary illness. They watched as Frau Traffia's dance went on deep into the third day, her shoes now soaked with blood, sweat trickling down her careworn face. Now, at first, many believed this to be the devil's power, because at the time, dancing was condemned as evil. However, after many meetings amongst townfolk, they decided that this was a gift from heaven and not from hell. John Waller then writes, "Within days, more than 30 people had taken to the streets, seized by the same urgent need to hop, leap, and dance around. People kept dancing, even until their limbs started aching and muscles were tearing off their bones. It is described in the beginning that up to 15 people died just from dancing a day." Now that you know about what the Dancing Plague of 1518 actually is, let's get into some of the theories that erupted from it. Now at first, of course, the big thing was religious. They didn't have the medical knowledge we do today. John Waller writes for the British Psychological Society, "In the decade before the Dancing Plague of 1518, famine, sickness, and terrible cold caused widespread despair in Strasbourg and its environs." Now, this may have caused mass psychological illness. Because of the hard conditions they had to go through, this could have caused widespread mental illness that is described as MPI. However, the main reason known today is ergot poisoning. This happens when rye gets infected with a fungi called Claviceps purpurea. In the same article, Waller tells us, "In recent decades, a vogue for simple biological explanations has inspired the view that epidemic madnesses of the past were caused by the ingestion of ergot, a mold containing psychotropic chemicals." John Waller also tells us in his book, "Compounds produced by ergot can induce delusions, twitching, and violent jerking." Now, this may tell us that maybe they weren't even dancing. Maybe this poison, or fungi, had made their body start tweaking, and they couldn't control it. After all the theories, it is impossible to dispute the fact that it has long-lasting effects today. The Public Domain Review, Ned Pennant Rea writes, "In the fraught post-colonial year of 1963, when a couple of girls at a local mission school got the giggles, their friends followed suit until 2/3 of the pupils were laughing and crying uncontrollably, and the whole school had to be shut down." Because of the Dancing Plague of 1518, we can label this and many other things as a part of MPI, or mass psychological illness. In conclusion, it is impossible to dispute the fact that the Dancing Plague of 1518 had long-lasting impacts. and many theories have erupted from this. It is also very important to medical significance today, and many other effects that have come developing under MPI. Now, it also lets people ponder the limits of the human mind and develop more and more into really getting at what each other are thinking.